Hi everyone. Keep letting me know your name and what you are working on and uh, where you are from. And welcome to yet another Wednesday session of Research with me. And let's just wait for some more people to join us, and then uh, we'll be talking today about something that's uh, going to be extremely relevant in today's quite unfortunate situation of COVID, where people are not, or we are not able to connect with each other physically most of the times. And yet we have so much of brainstorming to do. We have so much of research to do, and much of research you just cannot do all by yourself. And that would be one of the would be the core topic of today's session. And what we are going to see is we are going to see uh, how we should work together as a team collectively to get new ideas. What can be a very systematic way in which we can help each other out while working together. And by team, what I would mean is both the members who are in your group or in your lab, as well as your supervisor who is advising you in your research, and also those sort of people who are in your community, with whom you can connect, with whom you can collaborate, who may not necessarily be in your research group or in your lab, but a lot of the literature study, literature review, literature survey can be done in an amazing way. While you can also, as you collaborate with other people outside your group, and also get a lot of interesting new ideas. So today we are going to focus more on this particular topic, and people who have joined in can just put their name on the chat and what they are working on, and just say hi and hello to everyone. Hello, everyone. Don't be shy in letting us know who you are. We will be very happy to know each other. Mm, let's wait for some more time. Hello, hello, Molato. Is that your name, Molato? Where are you from, Molato? Hey, we got quite a good number of people. We don't know whether they would be able to make on time, but I'm so excited, so super excited to see some more people joining from some more different countries this time. So let's see how it turns out. Uh, People, please put your names and say hi and hello to each other and what you work on and where are you from? Would love to know about Mulatto. Hi, Mulatto. Where are you from, and what are you working on? Okay, we'll wait for maybe 2-3 more minutes, and then we will begin. And what we will do is people can keep coming on. So as we start. Hi, Anilandu. Uh, Great to know that you're from sports science department of GNDO. Great. That's would love to know specifically what is your research and how you're working with your students if you have students. Something which is very new to me, some area, research area, sports science. So would love to know more about that. It's so exciting to see people coming from all different types of background, research background, and it gives me such a great opportunity to interact with people from all different parts of the world, and also not just that, all different kinds of researchers. I see people coming in, more people coming in, and so maybe we can start, and we will let people join it, and I'll keep seeing if you have questions in between. Don't keep it for the end. Just keep putting your questions and your query or suggestions, not just questions and query, but if you have your own ideas, if you think that that's a great idea that can work while we are working remotely in this current situation, and also in the future, because a lot of things will change the way we work. Kind of COVID taught us a lot of things, that a lot of things are possible which we earlier thought would not have been possible before. So on a positive note, we did learn a lot of things about our own human capacity and capability, right? So, okay, all right. So let's start the session. Uh, so I'm going to share my screen. Just give me a few seconds. All right. So, okay. So today is sort of like the fourth sequence, the fourth part four of getting new ideas. And the specifically, I will first start with how do you get new ideas as a team. So that is today's topic. So the part one, when we there was a part one of getting new ideas, and you can see that link on YouTube on our YouTube channel later on. So part one was primarily how to get new ideas while you are reading a paper, and specifically when you are trying to study the research formulation, the research question formulation, or how the research question has been formulated. Part two was more about when you are studying the approaches or the methods, right, taken by other researchers, and how to examine them thoroughly, and then out while you're examining the other people's research approach, how do you get new ideas? And part three was how do you get new ideas when you're trying to study the different types of evaluation and experiments and other kind of uh, uh, setup, evaluation setup that other researchers have done. And while you're reading, you're going through them, you're reviewing them, how to get new ideas, right? So today what we are going to do, we're kind of like sum up all these things, and we are going to show you, and what I'm going to discuss is how you can get new ideas in collaboration. So all the first three parts, we primarily talked about how can you can do it yourself. So today, what we are going to focus on, how you can do it in collaboration with your lab mates, your teammates, your group, or your supervisor, or even outside your research group, right? So, so essentially, what also I'm going to focus on is while I discuss about the different techniques and strategies and method of collaboration, I would also show you with examples how you can actually do that thing in a really nice manner inside Rax, which is the AI assisted literature analysis and comprehension tool that we have developed, and we are constantly making it better and better and better. So we will also show you through that example how you can very easily do all these things using Rax, right? So so usually if you look at it, where your best ideas come from, we start kind of with a on a on a humor note, that most of your ideas would come from, even you're sitting in your office or doing the dishes, or walking to lunch or talking to someone, or taking a shower. And it can happen anytime, as you can see. So it's not just and for I actually quite agree with this particular cartoon taken from PhD Comics, that for me, it mostly happens when I'm talking to someone, or I'm just just strolling by in a park, or walking to my lunch and so on. So that's where my ideas come. So it will be interesting to know. You can put it on your chat. Like, it will be interesting to know where actually your ideas come from. Are you more of the sitting in my office kind of person, or are you more in the taking a shower kind of person, right? Where you get more of your ideas. So before, you know me by now, that I always start with this slide, that every good paper that you're reading is going to be an amazing research opportunity, And that's even more the reason why you have to be absolutely focused while you're reading a research paper. And you need to, the ultimate goal is what, like you have to quickly get the gaps or the research gaps or the research opportunities out of that as fast as possible, because if you are slow, some other people will do that, and then you won't be able to publish something original where you actually had that opportunity but somebody else did that. So you have to find another gap. So it's extremely important that you get to the gaps very, very quickly, right? So we all know that literature review can be very draining, as is suggested by this cartoon. But most importantly, and what actually pertains to today's discussion, is that it can be actually very lonely. And that is where, where I can tell you that there are multiple ways in which you can actually make this process really smooth and very effective and efficient, and also fast, if you can do it in a collaborative manner. So that would be today's focus, right? But then the problem arises that there is so much to read, and every time you're reading one paper, and you will get to read more, you will see that while you're reading the paper, you will see that so many other papers have been cited by this paper, and so many other papers have cited this paper. So you start finding so many of references, and it just keeps piling up and up and up and up and up, right? And it's kind of starts getting so overwhelming because you have so much, literally so much to consume and to remember as well, right? And the major problem is that you have gaps in literally, you have opportunities in literally every single such paper. And if you look at the proliferation that will happen in your entire collection or folder, it's huge. It's almost impossible in a human way. So now the question is, do I need to find these gaps all by myself? And the answer is no, you should not. Actually, you should not. And that is the crux of today's discussion. So the first part that we are going to focus more on is the knowledge acquisition part together, collectively as a team, right? So knowledge acquisition is the acquiring of knowledge, and the assimilation of knowledge. And that happens when you're reading a paper, when you're reading other papers, right? So that's the first part. So we begin with what we call as co-learning. So co-learning is the crux of collaboration. And if you look at it carefully, you'll see that co-learning goes hand in hand with co-exploration. Now, what do we mean by co-exploration? Imagine that you are reading a paper and you want to discuss that paper with your supervisor, or you want to discuss the paper with your student, or you want to discuss the paper with your lab mates, or anybody in your community who is working on this area, let's say, or related areas. So usually what you would do, so there are multiple traditional ways in which we work. We either would print out a hard copy, and then we would go to the office of my supervisor, or we would just sit down, squat around, and then discuss that paper. Or in a journal club, where we have a journal club system, we would present that paper probably in a formal way, and people will comment on that paper, and so on and so forth. So that's the usual way. Or the other electronic way would be that we send an email to my collaborator, and the collaborator reads the paper, and that's how we look into it. But then the problem with all these traditional approaches is that even with the electronic approach of sending email attachments, or even if you are sharing, let's say, a Google Drive, or putting your papers on Google Drive and then sharing that with your teammate or lab mates, or let's say, then the problem is that the paper gets shared, no doubt about it, but then there is no co-learning happening on the same paper. So it's just like as if like a copy went to the other guy and there is no real discussion going on, like a discussion thread that is going around that particular paper, right? So that is, and that is not recorded and structuredly recorded properly, organized in a nice way. That's the first problem. The second problem is that, correlation, co-learning goes hand in hand with co-exploration, which means it's not just about that two people are reading the same paper and learning about new things, but it's also like as you read papers, you would like to explore more things. You would like to understand more, more about certain topics. You want to, explore more on certain topics while you are reading a particular paper, and that exploration process also needs to be done collaboratively. So what I'm going to now show you is how you can actually do this thing in a very interesting way inside Rax, right? So let's just go to Rax, get out of here. And so for those people who are yet to find where Rax is, so the website is Raxter.io. And you can just type in this Raxter.io on any of your browser, and you just get to this page. And then it is a very easy sign up process. You can either sign up just by putting your email, or you can sign up using the traditional sign up process, right? Once you sign up or you log in, you enter what we call as your project space, which is your research project space, right? So in your research project page, what happens is that, so this is where this is your universe, so to say, where all your different research projects are in one place. So many of these projects can be correlated with each other. Many of the projects may not be correlated with each other. And some of the projects may be very old projects or abandoned projects, but it's all in one place, as you can see. Right now, what you can do is you can create a project over here, give it a title. You can optionally describe it also, what this project essentially is directed towards, or what is the objective of the project, and so on. And then what you can do, once you create a project, you can invite a team, and you can keep on inviting, multiple different people. Like I'll give you one example. Like this is one project that we are currently working on. And this project is primarily about the very new feature that we released, a couple of months ago, and that's called Rax Key Insights. And what we did was, as you can see, that I am the owner over here of this project. And what I did was I started inviting other people. So as you can see, I can click on the invite button, and what happens is I can put the email of my, so abc@gmail.com. I can put the email, press enter, and put some notes if I want to put some notes. And then what happens is I can either share all the literature that are there, or the papers, the reading list, my own reading list that's there in the, or I can also share my drafts, which is my working notes that's there. Or if I don't do it, then nothing gets shared, but I have to do it individually inside the project, when I have to share it, right? So that's how you can also maintain you have full control of your privacy, which means you would only want to share, like I would only want to share only a specific papers and specific drafts, let's say, with ABC. I don't want to share everything with ABC, so I don't check these boxes. So by default, these are unchecked, right? So now let me walk you through how you can actually do this first thing, which is this thing, co-learning and co-exploration together. So what you can do is, so over here, you enter a particular research project, and that is structured in this way. So because Rax is all about literature analysis and comprehension, so this is like the core. This is the core, this is the hero. of racks inside the project. So it's your reading list. So this is essentially your reading list. So you can add your reading list from your paper by selecting an entire folder and then adding all the papers, or you can add from PDF URLs, or you can add from a reference file if you are using a reference manager like Mendeley or something, and you can just sync it from there. Also you can add it from Google Drive if you are more used to storing your papers in Google Drive, right? So these are the 4 ways in which you can put your reading list, and your reading list would be all the papers that you're currently reading, or the papers that your supervisor has given you to read, and so on. So everything, or in your to-do list, whatever that is. So all those papers that you want to read or you have already read, or you want to critically analyze, you just dump it, everything. You just dump everything over here, right? So once that is done, and then what can happen is, as you can see, I can select, I can share. So over here, the way to share it is that every paper, you can, there's this button over here, this 3 dots, as you can see, you can click on it and then you can share it. And the moment you share it, that specific paper gets shared to whoever is your collaborator, or you can add more people and share it over there. Like, and once you share it, this symbol tells you that it has been shared. So this is me. This is a paper which is owned by me, but I have shared it with some people, as you can see over here, right? So I will click on one paper that I have already shared with somebody to show you how this will work, right? So imagine that this is a paper that I have shared with someone, and what will happen is that, so over here, you can see your collaborators, right? So this is the members with whom this particular paper has been shared, right? So this is the member with whom, so I am the owner, as you can see, and Vaibhav is my collaborator who has been shared this paper. And then what happens is that, let's say that I'm reading this paper, and while I'm reading this paper, I just felt that, hey, this is a paper I need to share with Vaibhav, right? And the moment I share this paper with Vaibhav, so what happens is that, as you know already, that there is a particular feature in Rax where what you can do is, let's say that I'm reading this paper and I want to explore more papers. So what I can do, let's say that I am reading this particular paragraph, and suddenly I feel like, hey, I want to know more papers which are related to what the idea of this selection is. So this paragraph, whatever this paragraph is talking about, I want to explore more research papers on this particular aspect of the paper. Okay, only this paragraph. So I will select it, and the moment I select it, I get this context menu that pops up as I select, the moment I select it. And then over here, you see explore related research articles. So what I do, I just explore my research articles over here. And once I do that, then Rax is going to pull up all the papers that are related to specifically to this particular this particular section. Now I can attach this paper. Let's say this is a paper that I really felt like, yeah, this is very important, so I can attach this paper, and this paper gets attached. I can attach the other paper. This also gets attached. And then later on, I can come back to this orange zone to figure out, all those attachments. Kind of like a sticky note gets very neatly organized. Now, this is what we call as exploration while we are reading. So we are exploring while we are acquiring new knowledge, right? Now, something very interesting can happen. What can happen is that, once I share this paper with Vaibhav, Vaibhav can also see this paper, and Vaibhav can also do the same thing on his side, which means that, let's say I show you with an example. Let's say So I'll show you with one example where somebody else has the ownership and somebody else shared that paper with me. And I'm now going to show you what I can do on that paper and what I mean by co-exploration, right? So what can happen right now is that, let's say this is a paper that was, as you can see over here. So this is owned by Ankush, and he shared this paper with me. And now I can, let's say, select this section, and I can do the same thing on this paper, which Ankush shared with me. And then if I think that this is a paper that Ankush should read, is very good, then what I do, I go to this button over here, this dot, dot, dot button over here, and I can share it via an email back to Ankush, or I can copy the URL and then share it with Ankush. So the best way is to share it with Ankush like this, and I can share this with Ankush over here, right? And what happens is, so essentially what really happened is, for the first time you see that we are working on the same paper, but not just reading and highlighting on the same paper, but we are also exploring more materials and then exchanging those materials with each other, right? So Ankush can exchange a material while he found the material right on that same moment, at the same moment, and he can share it with me. I can share it back to Ankush, and now everything is all connected. So I attach this, I share it with Ankush, Ankush attaches it as well, and it's all organized together with this one single paper. So that is what I mean by co-learning together with co-exploration, right? And probably this is the first time that somebody, you would be able to see this happening, this exploration part happening on one single platform, right? So any questions so far, or anything where you need some query, or you are in doubt, or you feel like, well, you have seen similar things before, or you want to address certain things, or if you have suggestions like, this is how I do it, the same thing which you showed, Sourish, I mean, this is how I work, then just let me know, right? Hi, Lena, good evening. Hi, Nishit, great to see you. Hi, Vidya, welcome back. So any questions so far about co-learning and co-exploration? If there is no question, if you just put in your comments on how you do it in your research group or in your lab or with your supervisor, also that may also be helpful to people who are here. Okay, so I would assume that so far no questions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the next aspect of collaborative research, uh, which is this thing. So apart from what I just showed you, you can also do group discussions on that same paper. And at the same time, what you can do is, so that's one way. So as you're reading the paper, the same common paper, and you can start a thread, like a group discussion on that paper. Or what you can do, you can also so that's one way, and that's one thing that I will show you how you can do that. So not, you just go and wherever you want to make a comment and share it with with the person. So again, you select that section where you want to make that comment. And over here on top, you have highlight, you have note, and you have comment. Now, the difference between, some people don't understand the difference between a note and a comment. So a note is personal note. So that's your personal note, okay, for yourself. Nobody will be able to see that note. while comment is when you want to make a comment that should be visible to the people who you have shared this paper with, right? So I can make a comment like this, and I can say that, I can tell Vaibhav that, find more materials on this. As a supervisor, let's say I am a supervisor and Vaibhav is my student, so I can say that. Or I can say that read this portion carefully and come up with an idea, right? Or I might also say that run this experiment if this is a lesson experiment. So run this experiment and so on. And then I can comment it. And the moment I comment it, it comes in like this as a comment. Vaibhav can see what I did, and Vaibhav can start a reply, and I can re-reply on that. And that's how a nested commenting can happen, right? So, and then I can go and look into my comment over here, and I can modify it, or I can write more comments and so on and so forth, right? So that's a wonderful way in which I can just figure out what's going on, what's the discussion thread that is happening. And the discussion, and it's not just one-on-one, it can be multiple people with whom you are collaborating. And the interesting part is that you can actually share this paper with other people outside your research group. And that's one of the most powerful thing about it, who are also interested who are also working on very related domain. And you can share the paper, and while you're reading, you can do such comments, and all that discussion is threaded in one place. Another very useful thing about this is that you see that a lot of times your supervisor is going to be very busy with multiple other things, right? And you need to understand that your collaborator or your supervisor needs their own time to get back to you. So what happens is that the moment I send this thing, an email would go to Vaibhav, and Vaibhav can see, okay, all right, so such a comment has been made on this paper and on this section. And then Vaibhav can later on his own time, come back on the platform and put here whatever he has to say or whatever he has to do, right? So in that way, that communication is recorded, specifically to certain sections of that paper, and you never forget, because you can any day go back to that section and get to see what was the thread, right? So that's one really, really good way in which you can organize a discussion, right? So that's one thing. To go a little deeper down into what should be the points, or what should you be discussing, and this is not just on Rax, but whenever you get to meet each other, and whenever you want to do a group discussion or a journal club presentation, what are the stuffs? What are the points that you really need to discuss on? So let's look into that a little bit. So the very first thing, is, I divide it into three parts. The first part is while you are doing a thorough study, as you are reading a paper and you're doing a thorough study on all the different research questions of the paper, or every paper that you're reading, there are 4 points to be discussed. Primarily, there are 4 points that you should be discussing, or you should be thinking about discussing. One is whether the research question has been crisply or formally described, and you at least need some comment or some opinion of your collaborator, your supervisor, or even outside your research group. Point number 2 is whether the research question has been completely described, and if not, then what is missing. So, which means that in order to completely describe that research question, maybe the authors or all the papers that you have read, they may not have properly covered each and every single aspect or parameter or dimension or sub problem of the problem, right? Or sub question of the question. And that is also something that you need to, because these are the points, the moment you start discussing on these points, you will get new ideas. This is the beginning of getting new ideas collectively as a team, right? So point number three is whether the assumptions taken by the authors of the papers that you're reading, whether they are valid or whether they are justifiable. So that is again another point to be discussed, right? And point number four is whether the problem becomes a new research opportunity if some of the assumptions are removed. I mean, this is where you really, really need it, because this is one of those areas where there's a huge research opportunity. And this discussion would take more time actually, and you really need to make sure that this discussion happens. That what happens if there are some assumptions that have been made, and what if you lift some of these assumptions, take out some of these assumptions, then what happens to the overall nature of the research question, and whether that can be, and if you are able to solve that modified research question, which means the moment you take certain assumptions out, the research question takes a different characteristic, different flavor. Now when you work on that, the new flavor of the research question, then A, is it worthwhile to pursue that research question, and B, would how to do that, then that itself is an opportunity, is a new direction for you. So that is where you really need to discuss these things with your supervisor while you're reading papers. So these are the points that you really need to focus on. The second part of discussion is where you are when you are actually studying the approach, the research approach taken by the authors. And again, there are four parts over there, right? The first part that you should be discussing is while you're reading the approach is whether the claims, the authors, every author will claim certain originality, about something about the paper. So whether the claimed originality, whether that can be substantiated, whether it is really original, to what extent it is original, right? And whether you are able to convince yourself. And much of that convincing process, whether you really happens when you are discussing that with other people in your community, with your research group, with your supervisor. And so don't miss out on this point number one. So that's very important. Don't, while you're reading a paper, don't just take it as it is. Like, okay, if the authors are telling that this is original, would definitely mean that this is original. That's not really true, right? It may be original, but you need to question to what extent it is original. The second point is, that needs to be discussed is that this is a question that you need to ask. Is there a problem? Is there a problem? Is there an issue? Is there a concern with the correctness of the approach? Like how correct the approach is, which means that whether there is any logical fallacy or inconsistency, or is there a reliability issue, right? In terms of, let's say, the deduction method that has been used, or the inference method that has been taken, or the justifications that has been given by the author to prove the point, or the supportive evidences that has been provided by the authors to prove their point. Is there any issue with that? Is there a reliability issue with that? Is there an inconsistency issue with those things? Or is there a logical fallacy in those things, right? So that's again another point that requires good deal of discussion. Now, whether you do it online inside Rax, that's one way of doing it. The other way of doing it is when you are actually having a journal club or a one-on-one with a supervisor. I would suggest you to do both, because a lot of times you wouldn't get the time to do all the time, so it's not possible to have physical meeting just the moment, just the time when you actually need help. So that's why the way I showed you, how you can do that in Rax is going to be very, very crucial, right? Point number three is there a problem with the completeness of the approach? So point two is about the correctness of the approach. Point three is about the completeness, which means that the steps or the arguments, the steps that has been taken in terms of the method followed by the authors, or the arguments that has been provided in order to justify the standpoint that has been, or what the authors want to establish, whether there is a missing link, or whether there is something missing, which means that maybe the approach is not solving the entire problem. Maybe the approach only solves some part of the problem. or some aspect of the problem, but not, it doesn't really handle, or it doesn't really address the full research question, the complete research question. It only is, so the authors may have told that, well, this is the research question and I am addressing the full research question, but that may not be true. So you need to question that. Is it really addressing the research question in its entirety? And you might find out through discussion that that is not really true. So that again is a research opportunity for you. So this is another very good way in which you can figure out what can be a research gap or what can be a research opportunity for you, where you can contribute. Point number 4 is whether all the steps in the method can be reproduced. And that this is extremely important, especially in STEM research, which is in science and technology, engineering, and mathematics research. So it's extremely important to be convinced that if you also take the same method, then you will also come up with the same findings or the same result. It is also true to a lot of extent in many disciplines of social sciences, and also in certain disciplines of humanities as well. Whether if you take certain approaches, whether do you really get to those findings? Would you really, if you do the same experiment, would you get to that conclusion, or will you be able to get to those findings, right? So now, Now the final thing, the part 3 of discussion, is when you are actually reading the evaluation section of the paper, right, of this paper. So how the authors have evaluated their approach, right? And over there are 6 points. The previous 2 were 4 points, but over here there are 6 points of discussion. So point number 1 that you need to discuss is whether the explanations given really support the approach. Like, whenever somebody comes up with the findings or the results, then they would definitely try to explain why those findings or why those results happened. And you need to convince yourself whether those explanations are good enough, whether they are really supporting the approach, giving support to the approach. And that has to be discussed on one-on-one or with your supervisor, or as a collectively as a group in your lab. So those are the things that, again, you can do it on racks in the way I showed you, or and at the same time you can do it offline. But these are the things that you should definitely make sure that you cover these things. Point 2, whether the claims or insights reported make sense. Point 3, have the authors adequately proven the objective. Like maybe what they wanted to establish, they are maybe establishing only 50% of that. 50% is still missing, and that can be a huge opportunity. So anything that is missing is a huge opportunity for you. So the more you discuss these things, the more things will come out through that discussion, right? Point 4 is what data sets or study sample have been introduced by the authors, and then you need to see whether they are comprehensive, whether they are unbiased, whether other people are also using that particular same kind of data sets or study sample, which is whether they are popular, and is there any scope of creating a better one, right? So that is the scope. That is again a research opportunity. Is there any scope of creating a better study sample or data sets? And these are the things that you can only come up with. The more you have discussion, again, the more you will be able to come up with these things. Like, is it comprehensive? Is it unbiased? So even if you are doing it on your own to figure out whether something is unbiased statistically or whatever that is, you should always validate it with your team or with your supervisor or collaborator. So these are the things to be validated. Then what data sets or study samples are missing, which the authors missed out on, which you think are important, and discuss that part. Then finally, can there be any metric or parameter that got lost or that got missed? Which means that those are the parameters, evaluation parameters or evaluation metrics, which are so important that all these authors whose papers you read, they missed out on that, and maybe that is a research opportunity for you. Which means that the more you discuss on those things, the more you question these are the right questions to ask. So I'm giving you pointers as to what should be the points or what should be the agenda of discussion, right? So when you go and discuss, about when you do literature analysis together collectively as a team, right? So, and then finally, you need to summarize all these opportunities and put it in a draft, in a working note, and keep building your working note as you read more and more papers and as you do collectively, as you discuss those papers in the way I showed you, right? So these are the things. And by the way, if you have questions at this point, you can ask me questions. Vidya, let me start with Vidya. Hi, Olukunle, and very warm welcome back, Olukunle. So Vidya Sagar has a question. Hi, Ibrahim. Hi, hello. By the way, people who are joining new, or just to make sure that everybody knows, everybody gets to know everybody, just put your research topic, which university you are from, which country you're from, so that you guys can become friends, right? And help each other. So Vidya's question is, how literature review useful for formulating appropriate research methods for social sciences like Department of Education Technology? This is a very specific question, Vidya, and to be very honest, even if I attempt to give you an answer to it, it would be a very generic answer because I am not a researcher in education technology. However, today's discussion is primarily focused on working together as a team. But if I have to put this question in that context, then so formulation, when I talk about formulation of research methods, right? So there are two aspects. There's multiple aspects to formulation. When you talk about research method, the one aspect is that you know crisply defining the protocol or the algorithm or the steps that you would be taking and what each step should achieve. So every step of the method will have its own sub goal, right? And every step should be, if you take the step properly, or if the step has been properly formed, if you're choosing the right step, first of all, then that step should lead you to the right sub goal. And then from that sub goal, it's kind of like milestones. So that's how research methodology is. You take small steps, and every step will lead you to one milestone. You're done with that milestone, then you take the next step. You again arrive at the next second milestone, and so on and so forth, right? Now, when you talk about formalizing, what you mean is that when you're, let's say, when you're reading a paper, or when you're writing a review about a paper, you need to make sure that you are critically examining whether these mini steps, the small steps, whether they have been crisply defined, whether they are extremely clear about what is the goal and what is the input. Input in the sense like, what are the ingredients? So if I think of a step as the recipe and the output to be the dish, so what are the input or the ingredients that you need to prepare the dish? And the recipe is the step or the method, right? So the input or the ingredients has to be absolutely clear. There cannot be any fuzziness in the input. The output has to be absolutely clear, which means there cannot be any fuzziness about the dish. As an example, if I'm making an omelette, so I have to be very clear about what I'm going to use. And if I am not clear about that, I have to use egg, let's say, which is the most key ingredient, then that's a problem in my formalization, right? In my research method. And if I'm not very clear about that, I am actually going to make an omelette, and an omelette looks like this. I define the omelette. What is an omelette? And an omelette would look like this. And this is what I'm going to come to. And then finally, the evaluation. How was the omelette? The goodness, that is the evaluation part, which is that whether the omelette came out to be really great, really amazing, or whether the omelette was okay-ish, or whether the omelette was bad. Again, how do I measure it? That has to be clearly defined, right? Beforehand. That, or if you're reading a paper, you need to make sure that the authors have done it very well, that, okay, this is the way I will define, this is the way I will be evaluating whether the omelette is good or not, right? I'm just giving you an example just to make you understand that. And if that is not good, if those there's measures to measure, I mean, how do you measure the goodness of an omelette? If that is not clear, again, there is a formalization problem. That's a formalization problem. So it has to be clear, like, okay, it has to be, one way of doing it is that it has to be approved by Wolfgang Puck. I don't know how many people know Wolfgang Puck, but he's one of the topmost celebrity chefs. So one measure can be the highest standard, and it has to be measured by Wolfgang Puck. So that can be one measure. One other measure can be that it has to be approved by my mom, or by my girlfriend or my wife or my boyfriend, right? So that can be another measure. So it depends, right? And that measure has to be quantifiable, hopefully. If it is not quantifiable, at least semi-quantifiable, which means there has to be some survey or something about it, or some way of qualitatively understanding using certain statistical methods that whether is really good or not, the approach is really good or not, right? So just let me know if that was okay as an answer to your question, Vidya. More specifically for education technology, of course, again, it would, I mean, the general framework is just this. Even for education technology, you would have this same way of working out. Specifically, it would also depend upon what is the research problem in that education technology field, in the broader field of education technology. What is specifically that research problem that you're talking about? So that would be very, very much. And this is why I want all of you to join our community, bring more and more people to join, so that you have more people from education technology, so that you can actually start talking with each other. And we have this Discord community that we just very recently started. So any other question? Let me see. Okay, another question from Vidya. Apart from formulating research methodology, but also literature review are also helpful to formulate appropriate research tools for research work, etc. Then how, can you rephrase that question, Vidya, so that it's kind of easy for me to understand what you really wanted to ask, because I'm finding a little bit of difficulty to understand this question. Or if some other person has been able to understand this question, then can help with the reformulate this question, right? So what I'm going to do is, I still have some time. I can quickly move into some more interesting things, and at least one more interesting thing that I want to focus on. So before I move on to the other aspect of other aspect of the research, what I really wanted to tell you, that journal clubs are extremely important, but don't do this, okay? Like what is happening in this cartoon, that somebody calls you up and says that, I say, asks you for the journal club, and you suddenly remember it, and it's like, oh yeah, I need to now discuss this paper. And when the person leaves, and what you are doing is you're now printing out the paper for the first time. So don't do that, okay? So take it extremely seriously, whether it is a journal club that you're forming online on Rax, or whether you're doing it offline, but take it extremely seriously, okay? The advantage of having a constant journal club, the advantage of Rax is that you can have a continuous journal club, but it's not a replacement of a physical journal club. So every week you should have a physical journal club, but at the same time, within the week, you should constantly put down your thoughts and whatever you did over here, right? One more thing I wanted to show you is something very interesting, is that, so let me go back to Rax. And I want to show you something also very interesting. Let's say you do a physical journal club, what you can do is you can record all your discussions, and then what you can do is for that, let's say that this is the paper that you're discussing, or somebody is presenting and you're discussing, so you can record an entire session, and then after recording the entire session, what you can do is you can click on these attachments over here. As you can see for this paper, you can come back, you can click the attachments, and then you can click on, okay, so you can click on custom URL, right? And the moment you click on custom URL, what you can do is you can paste the URL of, wherever. Let's say that you keep the recording on Google Drive or somewhere else, and you can put the link over here. Or what you can do is you can put in file upload. And in the file upload, what can happen, you can select that particular audio or video or whatever file that is, and you can just say that, okay, all right, so I want to, like, let's say I want to just let me just show you with an example. Yeah, so let's say I just want to open this movie file, this MMOV file, and I just want to upload it. So I don't, so you can always do that, right? So that's a very interesting thing that you can do. So that's one thing. Okay, so another thing that so this is, remember this feature, that whenever you are doing an offline journal club or something, or any discussion, you can always record it and you can attach it with that particular paper or draft which is related to that particular discussion, like that, so that you can again refer back to and listen to it, right? Later on, while you're reading that paper or revising through that paper or trying to go recap that paper or revisit the paper, right? So this is how you can really nicely organize things. Okay, see, the other thing is that this is another big problem. So while you're reading a paper, a lot of time what will happen is that you would like to take your own notes, and then you would want to share the notes, just like how we showed you, like comments. But then, a lot of times these comments start getting very unstructured, in the sense that, like what is happening to this student over here in this cartoon. Like, what she was doing is that she was actually putting down all these comments and notes and all these things, but then it suddenly started getting scattered all across in every single paper, right? And then also something very interesting happened to her, that she started forgetting, and this happens to me also, that we start forgetting, why did we even scribble something, why did we even make that note? And when we come back to that paper 2 months later, 3 months later, and let's say that we have to compile and make a report or make a presentation or write a paper now, while we are writing our own paper or whatever that is, when we want to compare papers, and if the notes are just scribbles on the PDF, then what happens, it becomes very difficult to compare our notes, right? Like the notes that are there in one paper versus the notes that are there on the other paper, it becomes extremely difficult to connect them and to compare them, right? So what we did was we came up with this interesting feature that's that is critique, right? So so what happens in a critique is that for every paper that you upload and you're reading, let's say you're reviewing this paper, surveying the paper, for every paper you have something called critique, right? And what happens in a critique is that by default, it is auto-populated with certain questions. Like, as an example, what are the main arguments of the paper? What are the premises or assumptions? What is the context or background? What is the significance or implications of the arguments? Any logical fallacy or inconsistency in the arguments? What is the approach or method of propose? What are the pros? What are the cons? Like, it asks you about your own opinion, right? Is the approach consistent with respect to the assumptions, right? How has the approach been evaluated? What data has been used? What were the findings, observations, or insights? How do the findings support the argument? Can the findings be generalized? Is there any inconsistency in the findings? What are the limitations of the argument or the claim? things yet to clarify, which is your own stuff, which you are not understanding about this paper, and you can put it down. So what I suggest to you is just put things, just put your notes. It doesn't really have to be like this. So just put it under the right, some bullet points, very short bullet points under the right research questions. And then what happens is, once you do that, you can now share it with your, I mean, this is already shared as an example. I'm giving the same example, shared with Bevel. So now what I can do is I can start a thread, a discussion thread on the critique. So earlier on, I showed you the discussion thread on the paper, but this is not structured. Like, this discussion thread is not very structured, right? So this is not very structured, this discussion thread, right? So now what I'm doing is I can, so this part is not very structured. So what I can do is I can now do the same thing, but I can do it on the critique, which is more structured. And the good thing about a structured discussion is that I can, again, as you can see, I can reply and reply back, and somebody can reply back, and so on and so forth. The good thing about having this is that, since it is structured, it becomes so easy for your collaborator to understand what is going on in your mind. Why did you put that comment? What exactly is the context? What made you put that comment? But if you're just putting small little comments and then sharing it with your supervisor or with your collaborator, they may not be able to understand exactly why did you scribble that small little note, right? Even if they can see your note, so we won't be able to understand your note, and then try to reply back to that note, right? But if you do it on like over here under the right research questions, then you can customize it according to the specific research problem that you are working on. And you can ask your supervisor can create a template for you, and you can customize a template for you, and you can reuse that template. So but this is an amazing way in which you can actually do that team building, do that team based literature review while you're working on your notes as well. And one more thing that you can always select certain sections of this while you're writing and putting your own notes, and you can also explore. So you can select certain statements or certain paragraphs. And again, I can select over here, as you can see, this is research articles, and I can select that. And now what happens is all the papers which are related to this selection, the idea behind this selection will pop up. And then again, I can attach them if I want to attach them with this thing. So that's another very strong thing, very, very powerful thing that you can do while you're putting your own comments. A lot of times you want to explore more to have a better understanding. So you can actually keep on exploring more. Or if you're stuck somewhere and you don't have much idea about that particular thing, you can also select that particular thing and also go for a Wikipedia article which is related to that thing. Or you can also go for online lectures or tier 1 conferences, workshops, or online courses, from top-notch places. Or you can also go for a very easy to understand light read, which means within magazine articles from top-notch magazines like Science, Nature's, Scientific American, you name it, or even top-notch company R&D labs, white papers and tech papers, and so on and so forth. So those are extremely valuable resources that you can do, and you can also attach them if you want to quickly connect them, and if you want to quickly refer to them. So you can watch a video, you can read a very easy article about that particular concept, or you can also go and look into Wikipedia to have a very quick understanding of the thing, and then continue with your note taking. And as you are doing the note taking, you just share once, so it automatically is seen by whatever new notes you make. Your collaborator can see all the new notes that you're making, right? So that's another and can re-comment on it, and you can make a discussion thread, right? So that's another useful way in which you can do literature review collectively as a team, right? And it's all gets, the good thing is that it all gets recorded in one place, and you can any day come back to that particular paper and look into the discussion thread so that you don't forget what was getting discussed, right? So that's another key thing. You should not forget what is getting discussed. So this is a really, really good way in which you can record all the discussions together, right? Okay, so okay, so the question was from Vida was, which parts of the research work I need to get help from literature reviews? Yeah, essentially, while you are doing literature review, or rather, it's the other way around. I think I am getting the question. It's you have to do literature review in every stage of your research, and this is something that many people do not understand. Many people, I've seen so many people, even many of my own colleagues, I'm sorry to say, but they don't understand this part. You have to you need literature review at every stage of your research, starting from the concept, starting from the point where you need a research, uh, you need a research problem to work on. You're figuring out what can be a good research problem. So that is till your thesis, when you're finally wrapping up your thesis. Every single stage has its own need. And like, let's say that I am in the middle of my research and I'm thinking about new ideas, new directions. So why do I need to read literature, do literature review during that stage when I'm actually experimenting and doing things? Because I also need to understand that whether I'm missing out on certain perspectives which others have done, certain things which others have already done and already tested and already come up with some results, and I have already seen that that will not work. Why to reinvent why to go in that path, rather not reinventing the wheel, but why to go in that path where already people have studied that path and have understood that, well, that path would not lead you to any fruitful destination. The other way around is also true, which means that you also need to make sure that whatever you're coming up with, whatever new ideas, whatever is your protocols that you're designing, or your algorithms, or your technique, or whatever path that you're taking to get to a final result, whether that is original, because originality is very important in research, which means that you constantly have to figure out whether other people have already done something very, very similar to what you're thinking. Because if that is so, then uh, then it wouldn't be considered to be very significantly new, right? And if you're ambitious enough to get, submit your work into good journals, then you will get rejection, definitely. So that's one major problem that you have to figure out. And it's not just that, when you are trying to understand the problem and in your early days of your research, and you will be able to know everything about every single approach that's out there, every single way of trying to figure out the problem. So it's not that it's not possible, because there's so many papers out there that it's not possible to know all the different techniques that people have already so you have to constantly update yourself, right? And also new papers keep coming up every month, every alternate month, and new papers are coming in, new people are, it's not that you are the only person to work on that particular topic. So there will be a lot of other people who would be working on that topic. So you need to constantly figure out whether you are not just in the right track, but also whether the track is unique, the track is new. So essentially, that's something. So some challenges are critical or maybe confusing for novice researchers and that types of learners, but must get help from literature library research tools part. Uh, Not sure whether I understand it, but I think what maybe one thing is for sure. If the question is that for I would definitely say that it's not just, I mean, like tools like Rax. It's not just for early stage researchers. I mean, like I'm not an early stage researcher, but I do my research project inside Rax. So, and there are multiple different things that are useful for different stages of researchers at and RACs or other kind of complementary research tools in this space may be useful to all most of them are useful to all the different stages of researchers. So it's not just necessarily that a particular research tool is useful for early stage researchers. But then, yeah, I do agree that every research stage has its own reason to do literature review. The reasons are different. Like if I am at the later stage of my research, my focus will be more on rigorously doing evaluation. So for to do a rigorous evaluation and to get new ideas while I'm doing the evaluation, how to do the evaluation, how to set up the experiment, I need to now read more papers on the experimental design aspect, and my focus should be more on the experimental design of how other people have designed experiments and whether I am leaving out something or not, or whether there is an opportunity in the evaluation, as I discussed today. Even in the experimental setup, can there be a new way of doing things? Is there any opportunity over there? So it depends. Like it depends on which stage of research I am. My focus is going to be very different. My focus of literature review is going to be very different. And at every stage, racks can be very, very useful for you. So any other question from some other people apart from Vidya? Otherwise, I think it will be now time to close it up. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to share the link. So there's a lot of other things that I did not cover today. Probably I would be covering um, some other time, maybe next week, or if not next week, then. But next week, I want to actually start the how to write a very strong paper, how to write the perfect paper. So that's it will be again a series, and I will start with the very first session of how to next Wednesday. So how to write a very strong paper. How do you write a paper? So that would be the topic. But so this is the link, and if Ketul is out there, then the Discord link, if somebody can put in on the Discord link for people to join Discord, if you have yet to join Discord, maybe somebody out there who can share the link. Thank you, Vidya. Okay, maybe let me see if I can share the link with you guys. So this is the link. You can join it. And for people who are to get a good who are yet to find us on YouTube, anyways, you can do that. But this is the YouTube link. Please subscribe and also put the bell button on so that you can get the notifications of all the videos that we keep uploading. And also do join our Facebook community where we put a lot of very good so let me put the Facebook community. So yeah, so there's something called Rax community, and you can join the community over there. And we share a lot of very useful resources over there as well. And try out Rax. Try out all these things on Rax. So for those people who are to get the link, easy to find the link. So I'm putting the link over there. And if you have any questions related to today's topic or any other topic, just write to me at Sourish@Raxter.io, right? I hope there's no other question. Anybody? I can still wait for 2-3 minutes if there's any other question. Otherwise, we can happily end the session today. All right, I think that will be it. So thanks a lot, everyone, and stay extremely safe and take very good care of yourself and your family and friends. And hope to see you next Wednesday for Research with Me. This coming Saturday, what we are going to do is we are going to, because it's kind of a festival season for in India. So we are not going to bring any guests this Saturday, but I am going to talk about my own journey of Rax, how it all started. Why did I start Rax, and some fun experiences and my own personal experiences about building Rax. Why did I even start this? What was the motivation, and how it evolved into what it evolved, what it is currently, right? So yeah, so stay very safe and bye.